What's going on, guys? On this video I'm going to share 10 tips of things to bear in mind when you're living in a village or staying in a village in Sylhet, Bangladesh. So I'll start off with the cons first and then I'll move on to the positives. Number one, people staring. You see, wherever you go in Bangladesh, people are going to stare at you. But when you're in the village, people stare extremely hard. Like when you're in Sylhet and like in the towns and cities, it's not as bad. People do stare, yeah, of course, but it's not as bad as it is in the village. Like people will stare into your soul and they don't have any shame. They don't care. Like right now I'm recording this video and I've got people staring at me sat on the sidelines, just staring casually. But I've got used to it now. So yeah, that's one point. Number two, beggars. People will come to your doorstep begging and asking for money and they'll have no shame. They'll sit there even when you say no, you tell them to go. They will sit there for ages until they get at least 10 to 20p. But when they're not satisfied with that 10 or 20p, they'll stay there and try and make conversation. They even go to the extent of walking into your house asking for money. So they have no shame. They will come to your front door. They will come onto your property, onto your land, and they will beg and continuously beg. Because most people here, even if they're not begging, most people here are poor and they look at you like you're a walking piggy bank that's run by a charity or something. They think that we're just filthy rich and we're just here to give everyone money. So that's the second thing to bear in mind when you're staying in the village in Bangladesh. Number three, the third negative thing on my list is the culture and the language here. You see, if you understand Bengali and you've got kids and you're raising them in a certain way to have respect and mannerisms when they speak, here in the village, whether the child is 5 years old, 10 years old or 15 years old, they've got really it's like a foul dialect of Bangla. They speak they're fakhna, whatever they call it, but like you'd think that a 10-year-old, the way they speak, you'll think that they're a 30-year-old adult. Like they speak quite rude and disrespectfully. So if you don't want your kids to get influenced by the way the children in the village speak or the people in the village speak, bear that in mind, because I'll be honest, I wouldn't want my kids picking up on the vocabulary here. The fourth negative thing on my list is the timetable. Here in the village, they've got a structure. They work off the times of the mosque, the local mosque and stuff. Like, for example, they wake up really early at the moment. Like the morning prayers, Fajr or Salah is at like 5 something. But the speaker goes off loud. People work around that timetable. So it's difficult to adjust, especially if you're somebody like us that have come from the West. Sometimes we sleep late, we watch movies and stuff, or if, let's say, for example, you work in the town and you're doing night shifts, it'll be difficult to adjust to the timetable here because everyone in the village, they work off a specific timetable and usually that's around the mosques calling times. My fifth negative point I'm going to make is the food. Here, you're very limited to the selection of foods that you have and not everybody knows how to cook to a high level of standards which we're used to. Look, if you go into the city or towns like Sylhet and Biswanth, people can cook a bit more decent. But here in the villages, it's a bit difficult to find people that can cook up to our level of standard. And if you're wanting fast food, and decent food, and a variety of foods, you're not going to find that here. It's very limited and it's very basic. So that's the fifth point I wanted to make. Moving on to the positives. Number one, people are very helpful. Whether it's the kids or the adults, they will go the extra mile to help you. Everyone's willing to give you a hand. And not always do they expect money in return. They don't always expect things. People will just naturally help. Everyone's very helpful here. So that's the first positive thing I'm going to mention. Number two, the second positive thing I'm going to mention is people make time for you. If they're busy and they've got things planned, they will work around that in order to accommodate for you. So people will make time for you. So that's the second positive thing I'm going to mention. The third positive thing I'm going to mention is there's things like mosque and the local market, the bazaar, that's very close. You can literally walk to a walking distance. So if you're somebody who takes your salah seriously and you like to pray, you can walk to the mosque, it's close by. If you want to nip to the bazaar and the market, it's walking distance. So that's the third positive thing. The fourth positive thing I'm going to mention is it's very cheap to live here. Utility bills are extremely low, especially if you compare it to somewhere like England or anywhere in the West. Utility bills are extremely low and it's easy to maintain. So it's cheap to live here. You want to buy things from the bazaar, it's cheap. So it's easy and affordable to live here. And the fifth and final point I'm going to mention, which is positive, is when you're in the local market and the bazaar, not every shop has fixed prices with things, so it's easy to haggle and bring prices down on a lot of items. And to be fair, most things are cheap anyway, especially if you put it in comparison to the UK. So that's the fifth positive thing I'm going to mention. And 2 extra points I'll mention, whether you want to put it in positive or negative. To be fair, they can be put in both. First one I'm going to mention is privacy and personal space. You can say it's a positive in the sense that there's always people around, and in the sense privacy and personal space is in the sense that look, I'm sat here and this bit of land, it belongs to my dad, and it's like we've not got bare neighbours staying out. It's like in the UK, if I was sat in my mum and dad's house, or even where I live, the neighbours will stare and they'll talk crap. Like here I've got people staring because they're curious, but if I was sat doing this in the UK, people will stare and they'll make sarcastic comments to each other, they'll talk crap behind my back, they'll mimic or whatever. It's not as supportive, so you don't feel as comfortable. And I'm someone who's got social anxiety, so the fact that I'm sat here in front of people that are looking at me and stuff, and I don't have a problem with it, it's because of the vibe that I'm getting from the way they look and the way they behave is a lot different than the UK. So in the UK, people will look in a negative way, or they'll make comments, or they'll look at you in a certain way, and it just naturally makes you feel a bit uncomfortable, especially when someone like me that's got anxiety. So it's nice the sense that privacy and personal space here is we don't have bare people not living with us on a street. This is our own property. There's not bare people here. It's just like a little couple of houses, but we're all family. So it's nice. So that's the positive side of it. But on the negative side of privacy and personal space is they don't know how to behave. Village people don't know how to behave. Like if we leave our front door open, people casually walk in and out. If I go into my room, people will casually come into my room without being given permission. If I shut my bedroom door and I'm talking on the phone or I'm doing something in my room, they'll casually go to my window and start staring inside. So in that sense, privacy and personal space, they don't understand unless you tell them straight. The second point I'll make is nature. Like, obviously, I don't need to highlight why it's positive, because it's good for your lungs, your health in general. It's nice to walk around on the fields and on the local areas, seeing the natural beauty of the trees. We've got coconut trees, watermelon trees, you know, friggin' lychee trees, very different types of trees. So the nature's nice. You hear chickens clucking away, ducks and stuff. It's very like natural to be here, and it's nice. But at the same time, some people might see that as a negative thing, because you might not like the smell of manure when you're walking around. People might stand in cow shit or bird poo and not like it. I know certain females from the UK are definitely not going to like that. So you can put that into both categories, positive and negative. Yeah, anyways, I hope you guys have found this video helpful or beneficial. So if you're planning to go visit in a village or to stay there for a long period of time, keep them points in mind. Obviously other things to bear in mind like mosquito bites and stuff there, and just it says it. I don't really need to elaborate on that. You know, mosquito bites can be really annoying, especially when they're really itchy. So bear that stuff in mind. I hope this video has been helpful. You know what to do, guys. Subscribe to my channel. If you've got any recommendations or you want me to make any specific videos whilst I'm here, let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, peace out. People will make or they've got a lot of things on their schedule. Duro.